Okay. Hello everyone. Thanks for clicking on this video. I assume, like, if you're watching this, you already know who I am, but in case you don't, hi, I'm Yaga. I'm a competitive Splatoon player. I'd say I'm pretty good. I've been playing Tent, the weapon in the question of this video, since the Splatoon 2 days, so like, I've played pretty much every single Tent kit for a good amount of time. And basically, I just know what I want from this weapon, right? So, as you've seen on the title, I want to talk about like what I would want from a potential theoretical, basically it's not happening, third kit in Splatoon 3 from Tent. And so like, this is going to be super unscripted, first of all, and second of all, I likely won't edit this at all, so you'll have to like bear with me. And every single time I say like do a drinking game, just like take a shot every time I say like, and try not to end up in the hospital. Anyway, so before I like start reviewing a tier-list I made for with all like subs and specials I would want in a 10th kit, I want to like elaborate what I would even want from a third 10 kit. Like, what's the vision? What do we even want from this weapon? And to do that, we'll need to examine what Tent currently offers. I'll start with the better kit, Sarawa Tent. It's better for like very clear reason that like Vak is shitty and Zuka isn't, but there's more to it than that. Zuka and Mine Tent is pretty much like perfect synergy with the main weapon because you set up ink mines. You have a big shield, so like people try to like approach you, ink mines blow up, you one-shot them with the cheap damage and everything. It's great, right? You also get ligation, so you can hit people over the ledges. Ink mine like is the perfect sub for Tent, sub weapon. There's pretty much nothing else in the game that does things what Tent needs to do, and because of Tent's nature, like, you have a big ass shield, you can go in and place ink mines in positions that our weapons just can't, aside from like ink brush. And then on top of that you have Inkzuka, which normally Inkzuka's weakness is that it's very easy to rush down. Even if you panic Zuka, you can still get one shot by it. It's pretty inconsistent, so you can often just find a video of opportunity to rush the Zuka user down. But with Tent shield, you pop it, Zuka, and like, how do you approach this? Answer, you don't, you just like wait for it to end. So it's a very potent combo in a lot of ways, because Zuka also like allows you to pressure people while you're like stalling this area, for example. Like, imagine you're on some map on a flank and the other team is trying to ignore you, but like bam, you get a Zuka, use the command position, they just know it's coming, so they can't really ignore you either. That's really good, right? So this is a very well-rounded kit. It allows Tent to play to a lot of the strengths, but overall it's pretty much a very aggressive kit too. It doesn't really have a lot of supportive potential in a sense. You can play it more for Zuka cycling, shield cycling, keeps him in, but overall I say it's more offensively inclined. So there's a different kit for this weapon in this game, even though it's like I never use it for good reasons. Vanilla Tent. It's a much more support-leaning kit. Sheldon from the Sheldon's shop even describes it as such. It has Beacon. Beacon is very nice for just having an extra jump spot for your team. Tent is not the best at setting them up because it's so ink hungry. Like, you set up a beacon, that's 75% of your ink. You need to recover a lot before you can fight again, because Tent is just like guzzles ink like nothing else. It has 9 shots with no ink saver main on a full tank, and it also uses the shield a lot, so it will waste a lot of ink. But Beacon is still a very good sub on Tent, because it allows it to get in, its team to get in. It still can get into places that other weapons can't to place a beacon. That's still very valuable. And also on jumping, if you're like jumping into beacon with your other team, with other people on your team, you can protect them, You jump in first, you open shield, go, you're protecting the beacon spot from other people, from other players on the other team, so your team is more safe, right? And the special is Inkvac. And now, Inkvac It's pretty much used. I wouldn't say it's useless. It has its use cases, but it's very limiting for Tent. Mainly because it takes away your main weapon. Sure, you can like launch shield, Inkvac, do it that way. Tent shield does solve a lot of Vax problems, which are present in other weapons, like it being very bad at painting for itself, even though like they added that feature a few patches back. It's still not the greatest, it still leaves a lot of gaps. And it also allows you like to more easily swim. You don't need to just like walk along to paint for yourself, you can just like swim behind your shield, you're more mobile. But still, it removes your main weapon, you are defenseless, you are relying on your team to do things. Which is like very interesting to me, because the kit in Splatoon 2 that Vanilla 10 had was Beacon Bubbles, which felt way more independent than Vanilla Kit in 3. Which is very ironic considering that Splatoon 2 was a more team-focused game and Splatoon 3 is a more, individualistic game with more playmaking potential of the individual. And so like with Bubble Blower, you could just like set up 3 giant HP shields and also still have your main weapon and shield. So you would pretty much you were immovable. Like if you just like got set up, it would take so much resources just to take you out, where it's like you stole for a long while. Just all by yourself, just with your shield and your 3 giant HP bubbles. Vac Tent doesn't really do that. It's a decent support option in the right hands, in the right situations, but it doesn't really have any sort of potential as individual. Oh, it does, but it's really hard because you don't have a main weapon, you're very defensive, there's tons of counterplay, like Row is crushing you, or Splatanus just ignoring your suction and killing you for that too. Vac can be filled up very easily, you can just ignore the Vac user because they don't have a lot of mobility, etc, etc, etc. So, as you like maybe caught on, probably didn't, I mentioned the vanilla kit in Splatoon 2, which had a lot of like, individual power in holding down a certain area. Neither kit's Tent has in Splatoon 3 really does that to the same extent. Like, sure, you have ink mines on the other kit, but, to set up an ink mine, you spend 60% of your tank. To set up 2, that's 120. You have to recover a lot of ink before you're in action again. It's not the same as popping a special. And, as I already said, Vac doesn't really have the same potential as Bubble Blower had in Splatoon 2, just because it disables your main weapon, and the special in question is also very reliant on your team to do anything. It's more focused on playing around your team rather than you being an individual destruction, so your team can do other things while you're taking resources from your opponent. So that's kind of like the angle I want to approach it from. Like, I want for Tent Kit to really, explore that area of Tent that I feel currently isn't really well represented in Splatoon 3. Just like its individual stalling power. So like, you can just like, I want something that can basically say, okay, this area is mine, you can't have that. You're just like sitting there forever. Because while the kits that are currently in the game can do that, kind of, they're not really utilizing to its full potential. And I think that would be like not only like good, because with Splatoon 3 maps, if you can take one route all to yourself, it's usually either the only route or the other route is so shitty, it might as well be the only route. So it would be like very strong on certain maps. It also provides Tent, with an extra playstyle, which is just fun. I like new playstyles for Tent. I think the weapon is really fun. I think the weapon can play in all the different ways, depending on how you approach the game. So just having one more way to play it would be amazing for me as a player. The elephant in the room is that like Sarawak Tent is pretty much the perfect kit Tent could ever have. Like 9 out of 10 situations you would probably still pick Sarawak Tent just because it's that good. But I think there's no harm in having just like one more extra option, just based on matchups or maps, modes, whatever else. So, with all that in mind, let's take a look at the tier list I made, just with everything. Okay, let's do this. I actually had to record this section because I forgot to turn on, like, my actual microphone, so my bad. But I don't mind talking about all the stuff again because there were some points that I forgot to bring up, so it's a good opportunity for me to just try again. Anyway, how this will work, I will go from top to bottom on this tier list, just like from specials I want most to specials I want least. And at the end I will talk about the subs, because subs and Tenta are not as interesting as specials in my opinion. Tenta doesn't really care about sub weapons, but I think there's just like still some stuff I want to talk about, which is like pretty interesting, at least in my opinion, to discuss. Anyway, let's start. So the first tier is perfect. Those are the specials I think would be, you know, on the top of my list. They are #1 priority. Not priority, but you know what I mean. They are what I would like to see the most. They fulfill like every single checkbox I need them to. So first up is Bubble. Bubbler is pretty much as close to a direct translation of the Splatoon 2 vanilla kit as you can get. It's a massive HP shield that allows you to use your main weapon while it's deployed. Bubble is just, Tenta is amazing at getting Bubble set up, just going into an area with its massive shield, swimming behind it, popping Bubble, drawing even more attention to itself. Just like, it's very hard to move Tenta out of a Bubble because it's a one-shot weapon. And also, Bubble has 5,100 million HP, and Tenta Shield has a lot of HP, so it's just like, it's very hard to deal with. If Tenta decides to take an area with Bubble, that area is pretty much Tenta's for the entire duration of the Bubble, and even after that, just because Tenta Shield still exists. It's really powerful. The only problem of Bubble is that it doesn't really give Tenta many tools to affect weapons outside of its effective range, but considering how strong Bubble is at that specific goal, I don't even think it's a problem. And you have, like, the other kid. You have Sarah Tenta already to deal with those matchups, if you need it. So it would be just like a very strong situational thing you use on some maps or some modes. For example, on tower control, Bubble would be really good for just having an extra 2 to affect the objective, because your main weapon struggles a lot on that mode, or as it is. Next, all 3 specials take away your main weapon, but they are like so good that I don't even think it's a major issue. They still fulfill the tasks I want them to, just they have that one downside. So first up is Jet. I think Inkjet would be pretty much a side grade to Zuka Tent, but it has some important distinctions which I don't think make it completely obsolete. That being its duration and the fact that it's, you know, it's less vulnerable than Zuka. With Jet, you have all the same things as Bubble, where you just like can travel to a certain spot, set up your Jet from there to more easily affect the map. You know, to have easier access to backlines positioning, or just like hit people from behind, just because you pop shield from behind their lines. It's also very good synergy with it itself, because not only can you set up your, you know, your special itself, you can protect your landing. Like, it would be like a very fun combo with drop roller, where you land, drop roll away, and are already, you know, setting up your shield and going from there. I think that would be very fun. As I said, it would be stepping on the toes of Sarah Tenta a bit, because it's still an explosive special, an aggressive one at that, but I think its holding power is so good that I don't even think it's much of an issue. There would be still cases where you would want Jet over Zuka. The one problem Jet does have is the matchup into Bubble, which Tenta already struggles with, but so does Zuka. So it's just like, well, it doesn't solve that matchup. I think it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. But what does solve the Bubble matchup is the next special, which is Booyah Bomb. Booyah Bomb, it's like one nice feature on top of everything else Booyah Bomb does that deals with Bubble, but outside of that, it's still like a lot of HP you gain Like, that's the other thing about Jet. Jet doesn't give you any sort of HP. It gives you longevity via new mobility, just like putting you above ground. Booyah gives you straight up just more HP. And so does Crab, and so does Bubble. But Booyah, what it does is allows you to live longer. You can like move your shield, do 10 stuff, your shield is gone, your ink tank is gone, you pop Booyah, you already have instantly recovered ink, while you're in the Booyah, your shield is also getting like, you know, regenerated. So by the time you land, you already have a fully healthy shield ready to go. Booyah is very good for clearing areas, so you can either go into them, you can displace people so they go somewhere else, you can use it to clear the space below you after you land, just to have more control of the area. It's just a very good both distraction tool and something to get your team in. For example, if you have a brush player, you can throw a Booyah, brush runs in and starts wreaking havoc already. It's just like really good for a lot of different purposes. It's very versatile, and it is good for just like drawing attention to itself, you know, because the only way you can deal with the Booyah is to shred it. Oh, like, I guess suck it up with your ink back, but that's not really a thing that will ever happen. So it just like, it plays into that destruction sort of thing that I really want from a third tent kit, where it's just like, it's drawing so much resources from the other team that it's like, just by existing, it allows your other three teammates to do a lot more. The last one special in this tier is Crab. I personally don't really like Crab on this particular style just because of positioning. I played out of Duelist, so I think it would be pretty similar to it, where it's just like, it can pop Crab very selfishly, it can pop it in a lot of areas, like flanks or different off angles, but it's just like, I don't think Tent is the best weapon to utilize that. I think there are like situations where you want to pop Crab, where Tent doesn't usually want to go, so it's just like, it's a bit awkward pacing wise, but otherwise it's basically Jet and Bubble rolled into one. It's a lot of HP, it gives you extra mobility should you need it, just to escape, unlike Bubble. It gives you a lot of DPS, so it also helps you deal with opposing team's Bubble. And in general, just like a really good combo for just like holding down an area all by yourself, by your one huge special. Like, it's really hard to complain about Crab being on a 10 for a 10 kit. It just synergizes really well in other areas that are not just like, you know, pure positioning. It wouldn't really match with how I play Tent, but I still think it would be like an amazing option should it be given that. But yeah, those were like the specials I would be like over the moon getting. Like all four, I would be like, yes, hooray, I would celebrate, I would do a little dance. But next up are the good specials. Now, there's still like something that I would consider for a first kit. I wouldn't be like upset or anything. They're less than perfect, but I still think they fulfill what I would want from a third 10 kit. They still set themselves apart enough from Sarawa 10 kit, and are still good in their own right there, so like, it's not a huge problem that they are there. So I'll start with Kraken. Kraken's main thing is invincibility, right? Kraken allows you to like move around freely for 7 seconds, just like impervious to any sort of damage, which is really good. Because with 10 shield, you can very easily stop your Kraken. You are not really as scared of the weapons about going into Kraken and having all those, you know, startup frames before you can actually tank any sort of damage. So that's really good. One major problem with Kraken, unlike other invincibility or HP specials, is that it doesn't really give you any sort of way to affect the map outside of your range, and unlike Bubble, you don't even have your main weapon. You need to chase people down to actually be doing something while there. So while it is a survivability tool, it still allows you to be a tent in the backline, not in the backline, it allows you to be a tent behind the enemy lines for way longer than other specials. It does like limit you while you're using the special, if that makes any sense. So like, it's still really good for that purpose, for just like stalling out an area, living there longer. It's not nearly as good as the other ones for being like actually effective in that position. It's just like buys you time essentially. But it does have like one pretty cool thing, synergy-wise with Tent. Both it and Tent Shield itself allows you to get like really far into some territory you like usually have no right being in, because like you are an invincible Kraken that has a charge to ignore or any sort of knockback, so you can just like take some very strong positions just with that special, and once you transform, you're suddenly a tent on that position. So it's just like it's a really, really strong tool for just like getting somewhere and staying there afterwards. And also like one more thing is Kraken Recall is very, very useful, because unlike other specials that have a recall your teammates can jump to, Kraken's invincible. So it's essentially like an additional regroup tool, similar to that of Bubble or like Beacon. So it's just like extra utility that Tent really enjoys, I think, because you know, you pop Kraken, you go somewhere, you set up far ahead, and your team will already jump in, and they have already a tent in front of them, so their landings are not only more safer, but they can spend more time, you know, getting to you and affecting them up from there, or like taking another angle. So it's just like one more thing that's in Kraken's favor, but it is like way more limited than the specials above it. Next up is Inkstorm. I think Inkstorm is just like a bit weaker than the rest of the things in the top tier. It's still like Paint. It's not as relevant with Tent Shield because of the healing effect. With Tent Shield, you really don't want to swim around it, you mostly want to walk. So having something that like heals you while you're still walking at the same rate as you're swimming is obviously really good. It allows you to take more fights, it allows you to just like stay in an area and effective for longer. It's harder for enemies to approach you, because with Inkstorm's damage, you can confirm kills way easier. And just like, you know, it's a very strong painting tool, but its downside is that it's just like, the damage over time is not that strong, and it also moves. It doesn't actually allow you to like hold one specific area for too long, because it will just like move somewhere else. There are ways to like control that, like move back behind a bit, throw rain in a certain direction so it stays one area for longer, but it's like nothing like Bubble or anything else. It is like long lasting, at least, so it will just be affecting an area for a very long time, but it's definitely like not the most ideal in that sense. It's still really good though. And the last one you might be surprised to even see here is Triple Splashdown. So why do I think Triple Splashdown would be good here? It's like basically like the same reason as what's the word? It's like similar, but it's very similar to Booyah, in a sense, to me at least, because it also like allows you to clear an area around you that's like very, very fast. Like you pop Splashdown, you're very safe rising up behind your shield. You can even like time it properly. You're also safe on your landing because your shield will protect you. But it just allows you to clear an area, have already regenerated your ink tank instantly upon popping special, so you can like continue doing tent things immediately. You're also like way less prone to getting rushed down when you have Splashdown ready. So like a tent with a Splashdown ready on the flank, you can't really like, you know, just like rush it down. You really can't, because it's just like, it's a tent, it will fight you forever, and then when you think it's over, you have an immediate opportunity, bam, you get splatted with a Splashdown. But its problem is that it's like, again, like Bubble, it doesn't affect people outside of your effective range much, and unlike Bubble, it doesn't have, you know, the long-lasting effect. It's a one and done. You pop it, it's over, you're tent again. And while it's still like very strong at clearing an area you're in currently, it doesn't help you stay in it much, if at all. It just like helps you, you know, recenter yourself, make sure you're alive to continue being a tent. Which, while good, certainly, I just don't think it's nearly as effective as something else would be. But I think it's still like a really strong choice, especially like for solo queue, where your Zuka kit might be not the most consistent thing just because of netcode and latency and blah blah blah. I just think it's, you know, it's also like really fun. That's like that's just probably my bias, but I think it's also like really fun, so I'm giving the points for that too. But yeah, those were like all specials I think have qualities which make them perfect for what I would want to see from a third ed kit. The rest are like not that. They're just like specials which, while they may be good, I don't see them really doing the task I would want from a third ed kit. So I don't rate them as highly. So like starting with like not complaining here, those three specials are like really strong in their own right, but I just wouldn't want them on this potential theoretical it's not happening third ed kit. First up is missiles. I think missiles have like extremely good synergy with Tent because like you can think about them as long-range ink mine, right? They locate the other team, they provide damage, they can even displace people, and as a Tent you play very well to their pace because you're a slow weapon and missiles take a while to actually get into to start being effective, to land. You have a lot of time to actually move up with them and set up. You see where all the people are, so you're not afraid of sharks because you don't have enough time to respond, etc, etc, etc. It's just like they do a lot for Tent, but the main problem with them is that it feels more like a side grade to Zuka more than anything else, because unlike Zuka with the one shot, it just like provides more chip damage, provides more recon, but it's less immediately effective and explosive. And just like Zuka, it has the same like weakness of being easily rushed down, though less because global range, get fucked. You don't have to get into any sort of position to actually use them. You just have to make sure you're safe before popping them, which is really easy to stand. But yeah, while good, they don't really allow you to hold an area or anything like that. They're just like I said, Zuka side grade. Still good, not something I would want. Ideally. Next up is strikes. Strikes are just like a stupid broken special, which have really good synergy with Tent, again because of the shield, just like Zuka. While popping strike you are vulnerable, Tent should solve that somewhat. So just like good synergy there. Having a broken special with one of its main weaknesses removed is obviously good. I don't even need to explain it. But one more thing that's like particularly useful for Tent is that strikes also destroy any objects that may be on the field. And that's particularly useful for dealing with Bubble. Bubble is Tent's like nightmare matchup, especially like on like Decavitator or Junior. So having a tool to just delete Bubble from existence is really good. But again, unlike Booyah or like Bubble, it doesn't allow you to hold an area very well. Like you pop them, you may like time them differently, but they're like a one and done. They're closer to Splashdown in that sense. But while Splashdown is like more immediate, strikes are like more... They take a while to activate unless you throw them right under yourself. So you're just like... While like on paper they are better than triple Splashdown, but they don't really do the same thing. So while they would be way better than Splashdown, I rate them lower just because they don't do what I want them to do, if that makes any sense. But I wouldn't be upset if I get them, but just like it's not something it's not a dimension I would want, because again, it would be closer to a side grade of both Tent kits at that, because Vak also has the giantess explosion that caps the zone. But that's neither here nor there. And the last one is Cooler. I don't have much to say about Cooler, because I haven't played with one for like months at this point. The special is like weird to me. I don't think Tent would be a very good cooler weapon, but like there's nothing much I can say. I wouldn't be complaining about it probably, because maybe some Tent players would be able to get used to it, but it's like whatever. So like let's just move on. So like the last two tiers are specials I would be actively upset about getting. Like I do not want any of those. So like starting with the Bleh tier, there are still like some redeeming qualities about them, but I would still not be pleased with seeing them. I'll actually like start with Killer Whale here. Killer Whale is like missiles if they were less well suited for Tent. They're more fast acting, so you have way less time to actually get into position to use them. They don't give you nearly as much recon. They are less reliable with displacing people. That's just like overall a worse fit for Tent than missiles. It's like probably wouldn't be like the worst thing to happen. It's just like I don't want them. I think missiles are like better in every single way. Like that's as simple as it gets. Okay, now onto Wavebreaker. I think Wavebreaker in theory, on paper, has a lot of synergy with Tent, because it provides location, which is good for Tent with no fall of damage. It allows you to hit people more easier, because, you know, to avoid the wave, you need to jump. And while you're jumping, your hitbox is way bigger than when you're in the squid form, so that has an easier time actually connecting pellets. So that would be like very useful. But it's just like weak. It's not a very strong special, so any kind of synergy it can have on paper, it doesn't really work out in practice. So unless it gets any like meaningful buffs going forward, I really don't want it. Next up is Stamp. Stamp is just a lie. I don't think this special exists in this game, even if it is on 8 weapons for some reason. It's just like, it would be very strong overlap with Ozuka, but instead of having, you know, some weaknesses versus specials, it has no weaknesses versus specials. You can like destroy any single HP special all by itself pretty comfortably, but just like, it's so unreliable. 10 does allow it to fix the problem with the, you know, frontal protection by launching its shield, but that limits you severely with how you use a Stamp. You're pretty much required to follow behind your shield, which just like doesn't feel great, and doesn't allow you to use the special in a lot of ways. And it also, like, again, it's less effective than like even Splashdown or Zuka in the thing that it can do for 10, so I would rather just not. I would rather either Splashdown or Zuka for what Stamp can offer me, because it's certainly not getting me into any sort of place that Kraken could get me into. It's just not happening. It's not real special. What's just pretend never happened in Splatoon 2. What's pretend Tent always had a Zuka. And the last one is Chumps. Honestly, I just put Chumps here because I don't really play them, and whenever I did try them, they just felt very unsatisfying. Like, they probably have some potential because of, like, you know, they summon a lot of HP shields, they paint, they do something, but like, they don't really do what I would want from a third Tent kit, I don't think. And that was just like overall weak. So like, I just don't have a lot to say about them. Chumps just feel like nothing burger or a special to me. So with that out of the way, let's move to the specials which like would just be trolling to put on Tent. Like, I would curse Nogami forever if those specials were to get on Tent. I would just like ask him, why Nogami? Why would you do this to me? What have I ever done to you? The first is Zip. I don't even need to explain why this is bad. Tent is an ink-hungry weapon. Zip drains your ink tank. Tent is very slow. Tent has inconsistent kill range. So just like getting into any sort of position with it would get you killed, because you need to get close to kill anyone, but because you're slow, you can't kill fast, so the closer you are, you're getting shot down easier. And you can't even use it for that long, so it's just like, no. Slider does the exact opposite of what Tent would ever want to do, which is just like put you in an unfortunate position really fast. Tent wants to take it slow. Tent wants to take it like one step at a time, just like moving slowly with its shield into an area or like holding it, and Slider just like moves you out of there into some place where you're like completely defenseless. So it's just like very poor synergy overall. And Screen. What Screen does is just like, it's nothing. It's not a special. It doesn't exist. People try to convince others that it's like it does something special, but it really doesn't. It's just useless. There's nothing even remotely that the special can do. And even outside of that, even if the special was useful somehow, I don't know, I still can't play it. I can't play with it because I have Screen banned on my Sando page. That's because the effect itself causes me severe discomfort. So it's just like, even if it was a useful special, I still wouldn't be able to use it. So it's like, just don't put it on my weapon, please. Thank you. But yeah, okay. Those were the specials. I hope you understand like my reasoning for why I think certain specials are better than others, but we still have steps to go through. So let's do this like pretty fast. There's only 3 tiers, and you are probably wondering why only one sub is in bottom tier. I will get to it, but first it's just like Ten doesn't really care for its subs. I would be okay with it getting pretty much anything, but there's just like 4 sub weapons in particular which I would like to see the most. So my like really like the special subs I really want on Tent are Splat Bomb, because it has, aside from being a bomb, which is good, it also allows you to kill any sort of person trying to rush you down. Like, you know, like a stamper is running at you, you throw down a Splat Bomb and they die while charge slashing you, or like dash slashing you. So it's just like, it's a really good utility outside of being just a good sub, so that's why it's here. Burst Bomb is an amazing sub for cheap damage. It really helps you with your inconsistent kill range, which I talked about a lot, maybe. I don't remember if I did in this recording, but oh wow. And you know, it's quick paint, it's very fast to use, it's fairly, you know, cheap, only 45%. It's very reasonable to use. The damage combos really nicely withstand damage. You can just like very easily shoot someone and pretty much have guaranteed chance to kill them with a burst direct. All that sort of stuff. It's just a really good versatile sub, both for Tent and outside of being on Tent. Before we move on to the elephant in the room, I will mention Torpedo. Torpedo is basically like a burst side grade. There's like not a lot I can say about it. It does offer like extra allocation for sharks, which is useful. Despite being like more expensive, I think it's pretty much on par with Burst Bomb for a Tent kit. So it's not very interesting, but it is something I want to mention. And now Toxic Mist. Why the hell is Toxic Mist here? It's like the second worst special, the second worst sub in the game, right? Well, hear me out. Toxic Mist, from my experience playing Mini, particularly Zinc Mini Splatling, for like quite a while, can be used for like some situations, which I think Tent would benefit greatly from. So, first of all, what Mist does is influence where people go, or how quickly they get to places, and Tent really appreciate that. I will give an example, like on Umami Ruins. On this Tent, I like to open top mid. So if I throw Toxic Mist on the left side of the map and open top mid, I can guarantee that the other team will either like avoid going left because there is a mist there, or they will try to go through the mist, but it's going to be much slower. So I will be already on top mid, just like at any point I can shoot them or paint around them or do something else. I will be ready to, you know, respond to any sort of person coming at me from the left side because the mist is there. So it really plays into like the disruption kind of thing Tent can do, where just like it influences the pace of the game a lot. Toxic Mist plays into that strength, so it's like in that dimension you can affect the game with. While like other stuff like bombs, of course, are more immediately threatening, they aren't as long lasting as a Toxic Mist and aren't as big, so it just like it has a way easier time. Even if it's less potent, it's way more overall long lasting, which Tent just enjoys because it's slow weapon. The other part of it, which I also really enjoy, it helps a lot with Tent's bad matchups, that being Bubble, as I already mentioned before, and Splash Wall. You can throw a Toxic Mist at a Splash Wall, and the user behind it will have to leave because they can't recover any ink anymore. They threw a wall, there's only 30% left on their tank. If they missed it there, they need to leave pretty fast, so that's really good for Tent. They don't have to deal with Splash Wall opponents as much. And with Big Bubbler, you can very easily just like mist the Bubbler user before they actually pop Bubble. So it really helps with this Junior or even Decaf because of their bombs. They no longer can throw bombs at you from the bubble because like if they do that, they are basically already out of ink. And because they can't recover it in Toxic Mist, it makes your job of, you know, destroying the bubble way easier. You don't have to worry about it as much. And the last thing, which is like less important, but still something worth mentioning with Toxic Mist, which I can do for Tent, its slowing down effect can be very helpful for Tent to chase down people or close the gap to kill them. Because, you know, you throw... Usually you're slower than most weapons because you're a heavyweight weapon, but with Toxic Mist, you slow down the other party. It's way easier to close the gap, it's way easier to chase them down and kill them, because, again, I mentioned before, its kill range is very inconsistent, so the closer you get to your opponents, the better, because you can more easily guarantee that your shot will kill. So like, for those reasons, I think Toxic Mist would be an amazing choice for a 10 sub. Or like, at least, if not amazing, at least it's like, it makes a lot of sense why it would be good, or at least like situationally good. At least I tell myself that. But anyway, I really don't want to talk about the okay subs. I just don't really care. Like, you see the subs there, you can probably tell why they would be okay on 10. You can find your reasons. But why is evo in its own separate bottom tier? Where do I even start, man? This stuff fucking sucks. It's just like, it sucks playing versus it, and it sucks it existing so people can be like, oh haha, wouldn't it be funny if the WoW weapon has the WoW sub? Ha ha ha. No, it wouldn't be funny. What are you, a Redditor? Like, good job, sir, you went the internet for today. Here's your Reddit go. Like, shut up. WoW is pretty much useless on Tent. There's very few use cases for it where you can justify using it over your 10 shield, because your 10 shield solves pretty much every single problem the main weapon has, right? As I said like a lot in this section. Kill range. 10 shield allows you to get in close to your opponents because it's moving. You can one-shot people more reliably with it. A static WoW doesn't do that. It drains more of your ink tank, it's 60%, and it's like, it's static, it doesn't move. You can't get in closer with your splash WoW, you will have to leave it to actually kill someone. So it's like, it's way easier for the other players to just like leave your effective range and like just not be bothered by you because you pester them with 17 damage from your max range, like whatever, they don't care. And also, like, the one situation where a splash wall would be useful is when you don't have your shield. But that never happens. You have like 5 or 6 seconds before your shield comes back after being destroyed. So it's just like, you basically never... And by the time your shield respawns, you have probably already like recovered enough of your ink tank to launch another shield. But that may not be the case for a WoW, because WoW is more expensive. So it's just like, the only reasons why you would use a WoW over a 10 shield is in your bad matchups, like with Splatanas, because Splatanas have a harder time shredding splash WoW than 10 shield, but it's like, at that point, man, just use like any other tool you have in your arsenal to deal with it. Like, it's just... Because like, okay, I described Mist as solving your bad matchups, and it's good. But like, Mist does other things on top of that. Splash WoW just doesn't have many use cases for outside of that. Like, it just does like one thing maybe better than your actual shield. So just like, why would you double down on it? Why would you want this? The answer is you wouldn't. You only want this because you never play the weapon, or you're like, I don't know, man, just play Splash WoW sometimes. Play Splatoon 2 and play Sarah Tent and tell me how that goes. How many times do you use Splash WoW on that? Like, when I played Splatoon 2 in comp, the only use case I found was Splash WoW. Well, actually, like, enjoyed it, I thought it was useful, is placing it down for my splatting teammate. And if that's like the best I can come up with, then it's like, man, this stuff fucking reeks. Just, I wouldn't be like actually upset at getting WoW on it, because like, again, as I said, Tent really doesn't care for its sub, but it would be just like an insult. There's like no reason for Splash Road to be on 10 outside of being haha funny. But it's not even funny. But yeah, with that, we're pretty much done. There's like nothing in closing I want to say. Just like thank you for like sitting through this video. I appreciate it a ton. Thank you for listening to my rambling about Splatoon. I really like talking about that game. I'll probably will just like end it here. So, thanks for watching. Check out my Bluesky if you want, that will be in the description. And with that, take care. Bye bye.